May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So I'm going to continue just reading now periodically in the ZC stories, and just go there and look for a link. And here's one. Oh, this isn't in my computer. I put this on the blog. I want anything I want to keep in the computer too. That's, better for backups and stuff. But this is just on the blog. I don't know how that happened. It's interesting. So, maybe I wasn't here when I did it, and it was the only way I could post. But that will remain a mystery. I posted it May 29th, 2015. And it's called Acquiring the Beginner's Mind Draft. And there's a little note at the end. It says, thanks to Viktor Sergeyev for urging me to write this and reminding me multiple times. He's a Russian translator that was involved with the ones who translated Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind into Russian. And they also did the afterword I wrote for the 40th anniversary. He knows about the 50th anniversary issue, too. I greatly updated the afterword for that. Anyway, so here we go. Oh, I want to say one other thing about Victor and those guys. They noticed the most minuscule things. They pointed out stuff about Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind that I got included in the 40th anniversary issue. Like the height of the waterfall was wrong. They checked everything. They showed that they went on Cuke.com and read read this stuff. I have several early drafts there for Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And, those early drafts were very close to what he said, some of them. Now, this was Marion's draft, so it had been worked on a little more for the book. It's the Beginner's Mind draft. It didn't get Zen in the title till Richard Baker took it to Japan and got a publisher. Marcus I can't remember his name. Weatherby. Maybe it's Marcus Weatherby, who owned Weatherhill. And he said, you've got to have Zen in the title. So it was going to be Beginner's Mind, but then it became Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Good choice. Zen Tatsu. So Victor and those guys, they checked with, close to what Suzuki said. And they pointed out some places in it where it was more clear the way he said it, and they felt it was misunderstood. And everything they suggested was excellent. And they pointed out some other things I can't remember. That's all on zmbm.net, website for which Cuke Archives has just for Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Although actually it's just like a shell that goes to Cuke.com to the Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind part there. There's tons on it. So here we are, acquiring the Beginner's Mind draft. DC remembers. In October of 1995, I interviewed Toni, an early student of Shunryu Suzuki. She was one of the original group that sat in Zazen in Redwood City at Tim Burkett's, the group which soon began meeting at Marion Derby's home in Los Altos. Toni often picked up Suzuki at his temple, Sokoji in San Francisco, drove him to Los Altos on Thursdays early for Zazen, his lecture, an informal coffee and treat get-together afterwards. Tony was there for his talks that Marion recorded and transcribed, talks that comprised all but one of the chapters in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, published in 1970 by Weatherhill, subtitled Informal Talks on Zen Practice and Meditation. Toni, T-O-N-I, and her husband, Tony, T-O-N-Y, and their kids spent a lot of time at Tassajara in the first summers. They lived for a while next door to the Page Street City Center in 1970 and then moved to Santa Barbara, where they were involved with a Zen group. I'd hear something about them now and then. At some point, I heard they'd broken up. I can't remember where the interview happened, how I got hold of Toni, or how she got hold of me. That was 20 years ago. And so I wrote this 6 years ago, right? 6.5 years ago. It could be it was over the phone, though I avoided that when possible. I can hear her voice when I read the interview and remember her person clearly. She's short, has a high, innocent-sounding voice, but she wasn't a helpless lamb. She'd become a lawyer, and her memory was sharp and served her well in the storytelling. She'd had some problems, mental or emotional, that she vaguely referred to outside of the interview. And she mentioned that she had a copy of Marion Derby's original manuscript, Beginner's Mind. I sat up straighter. Marion had given it to her for feedback. I told her I remembered looking at that back in '67 or so at Tassajara when Marion had just finished it, but I didn't recall seeing one since. It evolved into the book and was forgotten. Toni said it was her most prized possession. I asked if I could see it, and she was quiet and then softly said, "Later, maybe." I was in the early stages of gathering together all the Shunryu Suzuki lectures I could find in transcript or audio form. Now on ShunyuSuzuki.com and Gook.com, there are over 40 lectures in apparently close to verbatim form from Marion's Haiku Zendo in Los Altos. That's not true. Actually, the lectures were given before, almost all of them, or maybe all of them, before the Haiku Zendo was built in the summer of 1966. Maybe there were a couple after them. But so it was just the Los Altos Zendo or Marion's Living Room Zendo. But I don't know. It's not wrong to call it the Haiku Zendo and stretch it back the time a little. Doesn't that make more sense than having to correct it every time I come upon that? But in 1995, I'd found almost nothing other than the chapters within Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Checking the chart on Suzuki lectures, only one transcript appears to have been available then. All but 2 of the audio tapes were and still are missing. That's in 2015. There's a few of them now, not many. I was pretty sure that the lectures in Marion's draft would be minimally edited. After a while, I called Toni up with some follow-up questions, and among the questions, suggested we get together so that I could make a photocopy of that draft. I can hear her distant-sounding, melancholy voice now, slowly answering, "I don't know, David. It's all I have left of Reverend Suzuki." I pointed out that she'd still have it, that she'd then be sharing it with others, surely many others, over the years who would be most grateful to her. It took several months for her finally to say she was ready to show it to me. I invited her to lunch at Green's, the San Francisco Zen Center's gourmet vegetarian restaurant in the Marina District of San Francisco with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. Toni agreed and said she'd bring the manuscript with her. I picked her up at noon in the Mission District of San Francisco. She was waiting in front of a cheap hotel where she had a room. She carried a handbag large enough to hold the manuscript. I got a window table and a bottle of Chalon Chardonnay. Didn't ask about the manuscript. We talked. She talked a lot about her past and problems and children who'd grown up. We shared pasta with creamy cheese, spinach salad with roasted walnuts, and hot olive oil, pumpkin soup, brochettes, and another bottle of wine, probably a step down from Chalon. We sat there for 2 hours and finished the feast off with espresso and triple chocolate cake. Over dessert, she pulled out the manuscript. As I see it now, or at least as I imagine it now, it was in a blue heavy paper binder like I used in school, typed in standard-sized paper. I think it was a photocopy of the original. It could have been a mimeograph. Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki on the cover. A cover page inside with that and edited by Marion Derby. A table of contents, only 13 lectures, starting with Beginner's Mind, 1/3 of the number of talks used in the final book. It was in good condition. She put it back in the bag and we got up to go. We were pretty out of it. At my suggestion, we wandered out across the Marina Boulevard to the Safeway, where I bought some drum tobacco. We went back to sit by the bay, smoked the hand-rolled cigarettes, and watched the boats bobbing in the marina. She nodded toward the Golden Gate Bridge and said, "I went there to jump off." I gasped slightly, and then with a sympathetic and sincere sigh told her I was glad. She obviously didn't. You know why I didn't? Why? I remembered this beginner's mind. I thought maybe it's the only copy. It's back in my hotel room, and if I jump now, it will surely be lost. So I went back to take care of it. We walked over to Kinko's, right across a side street from the Safeway. I copied the manuscript, gave her the original back, and drove her to her hotel. I don't remember any contact since then. Tony's husband from the early days died recently, and I made an attempt to get in touch with their children, but never heard back. I don't know where or if Tony is now. This has been a Cuke Audio mini podcast. I'm DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.